Now let's take a look at the next evaluation criteria, coverage. The first thing to think about when we discuss coverage is this information relevant to my topic? Well, if you may recall, our topic is religion in communist China. So, just judging from the title and the abstract, I would say that this article is in fact relevant to my topic. The next thing I want to think about is, does it answer my major questions? And just judging from the abstract, I would say that it probably will at least answer one of my major questions or give a good start on answering one of my major questions. I would not say that this would answer all my questions, but it might at least give me a good starting point. I would have to read the article itself to get a good idea of how much information it gives me towards my major questions, but just judging from the title and abstract, I would say it's a good starting point. Next question that we should consider is, how comprehensive is this information? Is it broad, or does it just give a selective coverage of the topic? And judging from the title and the abstract and what little we know of right now, I would say it's a bit selective. It seems to examine religion in China from an economical standpoint, which is a little selective, but I still think it is probably relevant enough to be considered. I would have to read the article to get a better idea of that, or at least start reading the article. The next question we need to consider is, what time period is covered? Does it discuss recent events or historical events? And it seems to appear to talk about probably both. It's hard to tell just from the abstract. This is a good example of how you will have to probably start reading a little bit to get a good idea of coverage. You probably have to start reading the first couple pages to really see how in-depth the coverage is and how relevant it is, but we're not going to do that in this demonstration. So we're just going to take a look at the title and the abstract. When you're really evaluating, you really do want to take a look at like the first page or first couple pages just to get a better idea. Next, is the information presented regional, national, or international in scope? And we are definitely looking for national information because we're talking about China specifically. And this article appears to do exactly that, just focuses on China. So we're okay in that aspect. Finally, how unique is this information compared to our other resources? Now this is hard to gauge because we do not have any other resources at the moment. So we would say that this article is definitely unique since we have nothing like it. If we did, we would want to take a look at those other resources to judge how unique this one is. The next evaluation criteria we want to take a look at is currency and timeliness. The first question you want to ask when you judge currency and timeliness is, when was this article published? As you can see on the screen, it says that it was published in 2010, so it is about 3 years old. Now, is this article outdated? It is 3 years old, that is a couple years, but judging from just the abstract and the title, it doesn't appear to be focusing too much on current issues, so it doesn't seem to be that this article is too outdated. If there were major events regarding religion in China happening now, then this article would definitely be pretty outdated. But since it doesn't seem to have too much of a focus on contemporary, current China, then we could say that this isn't too outdated. If our focus of our paper is on current religious issues in China, then we would probably want something a bit newer. Because this article isn't too outdated and our topic doesn't require current up-to-date information, then we could definitely say that this article is useful for us. Our final evaluation criteria is appropriateness. When we discuss appropriateness, the first thing we want to definitely consider is this article appropriate for an academic level paper? And just judging from the title and the abstract, I would definitely say that it is. The use of language is on par with college level research. It isn't too academic, it doesn't use highly specialized language, so it isn't aimed at professors or professionals. But the language also isn't too general, too broad. It isn't aimed at high schoolers or children. It is definitely on par with college level researchers. The next question we want to ask is this article in English? And this is especially important given our topic, since we are discussing Chinese issues. and we can very well end up with an article in Chinese, and we would never know until we got the article. We know that this article is in fact in English because we looked at the PDF full text, but if that was not available and we had to request it and it ended up in Chinese, that would not help us if we couldn't read Chinese. So make sure to look at the record. Not all records will state the language. Like this one, it does not say it is in English. However, some of them do, especially if the article is in another language. It should usually say, if it is in Chinese, in the record. So if you're ever in doubt, make sure to look at the record to see if it is in English or not. Finally, is this article too general or too specific? And we know by looking at the abstract and the title and just taking a quick look that it is a little specific, but is probably general enough to be useful for us. So we can probably guess that this article is appropriate in terms of how specific it is. However, it is likely that you will stumble across articles that are in fact too general or very specific, so keep an eye out for that. Sometimes it might be a little difficult to gauge that just from looking at the abstract, and you might have to look at the first couple pages to get an idea of just how specific or how general the article is. This concludes the demonstration on using the evaluation criteria on a periodical. In the next tutorial, we'll apply these criteria towards a book resource.